Everyone warned me, don't take the job at Castle Knox. No one survives the twins. But rent was due, so I did it anyway. Now I'm babysitting 2 overpowered mini-vampires who can bend reality, and a king who's suddenly way too interested in the human maid holding his family together. But I was broke, my landlord had that look about next month's rent, and the market in my tiny human town had no other offers that didn't involve fish guts or someone's lecherous uncle. So I climbed into the black carriage at sunset, clutching my small suitcase like it could protect me from bad decisions. The journey lasted hours, through thick forest and twisting roads. The closer we got, the more the light thinned, like the sun had decided this part of the world wasn't worth the effort. Mist rolled low along the ground, and the air turned colder, sharper. When the carriage stopped, I peered out and almost told the driver he'd got the wrong place. The remote estate was a full-on castle, carved into a mountain like it had grown there. Dark towers stabbed the sky. Windows glowed faintly, like watchful eyes. A massive iron gate loomed ahead, the bars were twisted into thorn-like spikes, and something large and winged perched on top, motionless. I stepped out, boots crunching on gravel, breath misting in the chill. My stomach nodded. Okay, Alara, I muttered to myself. You needed a job. You got a job. You are not going to freak out just because the building looks like it eats people. The carriage rattled away behind me, leaving me alone. The gates creaked open. By themselves. Totally normal. I walked through. A long drive stretched toward the castle. The closer I came, the more I felt watched. Not in a creepy eye-peeping neighbor way, but in a the stone itself knows you're here way. Shadows seemed to move in the corners of my vision. Once, I could have sworn I heard childish laughter on the wind. Just nerves, I whispered. By the time I reached the enormous front doors, my palms were damp. Before I could knock, they swung inward with a heavy sigh of aged wood. A tall, thin man stood there, dressed in immaculate black, his skin grayish pale and his hair slicked back. Miss Alara Farrow, he asked. That's me, I said, because it was, and also because my brain had temporarily misplaced every other possible sentence. He gave a small bow. Welcome to Castle Knox. I am Bram, steward to His Majesty. His Majesty, I repeated. So, like, a lord? A duke? His eye twitched. The Vampire King. I laughed. It came out too loud. Good one. He didn't smile. My laughter died a quick, graceless death. Oh. You will be shown your quarters shortly, Bram said. First, the children. Children? I echoed. He turned on his heel, expecting me to follow. I did, trying not to stare at the portraits lining the walls. Many were of the same man, tall, dark-haired, golden-eyed, severe. Judging by the number of paintings, whoever he was really liked having his face on walls. We stopped before a pair of huge oak doors banded with iron, strange sigils carved into the wood. The royal twins, Bram said, his voice carefully neutral. Your primary duties will include cleaning their rooms, aiding in their care, and supervision when His Majesty is occupied. Babysitting, I translated. One could put it that way, he replied. Are they little? I mean, are they? He opened the door. 2 small figures stood in the middle of an enormous playroom, ringed with shelves of books, toys, and very expensive-looking breakables. A great window looked out over the forest, the glass faintly tinted red by the setting sun. The children turned toward us. They were twins, clearly, maybe 7, perhaps 8, with pale skin, ink-black hair, and eyes that glowed amber even in the dim light. The girl wore a dark dress with a ripped hem and no shoes. The boy wore a tiny vest and shirt, sleeves rolled up, bare feet on cold stone. They stared at me with identical, unblinking intensity. She's new, the girl observed. The last one screamed, the boy added. A lot. My mouth went dry. Hi. I'm Alara. They approached in eerie sync, heads tilted at the same angle. They circled me like I was something interesting they'd found in the garden. Human, the girl said softly. Fragile, the boy agreed, drawing the word out. Bram cleared his throat. Prince Lucian. Princess Lira. This is your new maid. She is to be treated with respect. We never broke the last one, Lira said, frowning. She broke herself. She called us monsters, Lucian said, and there was something sharp under the casual tone. We don't like being called monsters. I swallowed. You're not monsters. Both their heads snapped toward me. You don't even know us, Lira said slowly. I know monsters don't have tidy rooms, I said, because my panic-strangled brain had apparently decided to go off script. And this is a disaster. Toys everywhere, clothes on the floor, no terrifying creature of the night would tolerate this mess. Lucian blinked. Lyra's lips twitched. You insulted our room, she said. I insulted the mess, I corrected. If you're going to haunt a castle, you could at least do it in style. Silence. Then Lira snorted. Lucian's serious face cracked into a grin. I like her, he announced. Yes, Lira agreed. Let's keep this one. Bram exhaled, very softly, like he'd been holding his breath. I had the distinct feeling I'd just passed some kind of test without realizing it. My first full day in Castle Knox taught me 3 important things. 1. The castle was definitely haunted. 2. The castle was haunted by the twins. 3. Quitting was technically an option, but finding my way back through that cursed forest alone was probably not. The morning started simple enough. Bram gave me a brief tour, the kitchens, the laundry, the servant corridors, my small but comfortable room tucked under the eaves. Then he left me in front of the twins' door with a polite, I suggest you knock before entering, Miss Farrow. I took a deep breath and knocked. The door swung open without anyone touching it. Standard by now. The inside was worse than yesterday, pillows on the floor, books piled in towers, something sticky on the ceiling. I chose not to investigate that. Good morning, I called. It is, in fact, a great day to learn about putting things back where you found them. A book zoomed past my head like an angry bird, pages fluttering. I squeaked and ducked. 3 more books followed, circling me like vultures. Lucian. Lira. More laughter, muffled. The books swooped again. I narrowed my eyes. All right, you two. You want to play Haunted Library? Fine. But if anything hits me in the face, I'm confiscating every story you like and replacing them with dusting manuals. The books froze midair. One bumped into another with a soft thud. A dark head peeked over the back of a sofa. Lira. You wouldn't, she said, scandalized. Try me, I said. Lucian emerged from under a table, eyes narrowed. You didn't scream. I've been here less than a day, I said. Give me time. Lira snapped her fingers. The floating books dropped onto the nearest surface in a haphazard pile. The sticky patch on the ceiling vanished. The air felt a little less charged. That's better, I said briskly, heart still thudding. Now, who wants breakfast? Bram brings breakfast, Lucian said suspiciously. Yes, I replied, walking past him toward the window. And then he leaves. I, however, am contractually obligated to annoy you all day. Lira brightened. All day? Unless you bite me, I said. Then I assume there's a clause. Lucian's gaze flicked to my throat. We don't bite the staff, he said, tone flat. It felt less like a reassurance and more like a rule he resented. Great, I said, pretending calm. Then we're good. Over the next few hours, I learned how the twins played. They could walk on walls and ceilings. Summon small pockets of shadow that giggled in your ear. Make doors open into the wrong room, sometimes for minutes at a time. Cause objects to float, twist, rearrange, and occasionally rearrange you. Stop moving the broom, I said for the 10th time, as it floated tantalizingly out of my reach. But it's funny, Lucian said, sprawled upside down on the bed, head hanging off the edge. It's funny for about 3 seconds, I said, jumping again. After that, it's just rude. And dusty. The broom dropped into my hands. I caught it with a little triumphant noise that made Lira giggle. You're weird, Lira told me, perched on the windowsill, bare toes curled against the stone. Everyone else ran away or cried or begged father to send them home. Maybe I'm just too broke to be scared, I said. She tilted her head. Is that a human thing?
Yeah,
I said. We're very brave when the rent's due. Lucian slid off the bed and landed lightly, eyes still fixed on me. You don't call us monsters. I call you messy, I replied. There's a difference. He studied me like he was trying to peel my skin back and see what was underneath. It should have been unnerving. It kinda was, actually. But there was something else there too. A sort of wary curiosity. We made the last nanny see her worst fears, Lira said conversationally. She thought the walls were closing in. She scratched her hands bloody trying to claw her way out. My stomach lurched. That's not nice. We didn't show her anything that wasn't already in her head, Lucian said sharply. We just made it louder. The point, I said carefully, is that you scared her badly enough to hurt herself. They both hesitated. We weren't trying to hurt her, Lira muttered finally, picking at a loose thread on her dress. We just wanted to see what would happen. I set down the broom and lowered myself to sit on the edge of the bed, leaving space between us. Here's a radical idea. Next time, you could talk to the person. About what? Lucian asked blankly. Oh, I don't know, I said. About how you feel. About how boring it is in a giant magical castle with no other kids. About how nobody lets you break anything fun. About how your dad is busy doing king stuff and you're lonely. Silence. I'm not lonely, Lira said too quickly. Me neither, Lucian said, just as fast. Sure, I said. You just terrorize every adult assigned to you for fun. Totally normal not lonely kid behavior. They glared at me in perfect synchronization. Then Lyra's glare crumpled. They're scared of us before we even do anything, she snapped. They look at us like we're wrong. We are wrong, Lucian muttered, staring at his hands. Everyone says so. We're too strong. Too early. Father says we weren't supposed to be like this. My chest tightened. You're not wrong, I said softly. You're just powerful. And maybe a little untrained. And extremely in need of some healthier hobbies. Lira sniffed. Like what? Like, I said, seizing my chance, helping me clean this disaster of a room before I trip over something and die, and then your dad has to fill out paperwork. That got a laugh from both of them. By the time the bells tolled noon, the room was actually presentable. The twins had shown off by stacking books in perfect color gradients with a wave of their hands. I'd taken away a jar of suspiciously grinning shadow and made them promise never to put it under anyone's pillow. They trailed after me as I carried dirty linen down to the laundry. When we passed a tall window, Lira hesitated, eyes fixed outside. What are you looking at? I asked. The sun, she said. It was high and bright, a distant gold coin above the forest. It's pretty, I agreed. We've never felt it, Lucian said quietly. I glanced at them. They were both very still, faces shuttered. Maybe, I said slowly, we can't fix that. But we can open the window a bit, and you can feel the air that's been in the sun. They stared at me like I'd just spoken another language. It's not the same, Lira said. No, I said. But it's a start. I cracked the window. Warm air spilled in, smelling of pine and distant wildflowers. The twins stepped closer, eyes half closing. For a moment, the glowing gold in their irises looked almost soft. I turned away to give them privacy, pretending I needed to fuss with the laundry. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Lucian reach for Lyra's hand. And for the first time since arriving, I thought, maybe I can do this. I managed to avoid the Vampire King himself for 2.5 days. It wasn't deliberate, exactly. I just strongly felt that meeting the ancient ruler of all vampires while covered in dust bunnies and sticky handprints would not leave the best impression. On the third night, Bram appeared in the twins' room as I was coaxing them toward bed. "His Majesty requests your presence, Miss Pharaoh," he said, inclining his head. My stomach did a complicated flip. "Now?" "Yes." Lira immediately scowled. "Why?" "Because he is king," Bram said, exactly as if she should know better. "And because he wishes to discuss Miss Pharaoh's continued employment." I froze. Continued employment? Lucian's expression sharpened. "Is he sending you away?" Panic sparked in Lyra's eyes. "He can't. We like her." Bram's mouth twitched almost imperceptibly. "His Majesty will take that under consideration." Lira latched onto my hand. "Don't go," she hissed. "I'll be right back," I said, hoping I wasn't lying. "You two get into bed. If you're not under the covers when I return, I'll make you help me polish the entire hall of armor tomorrow." Lucian actually winced. "You're cruel," he muttered. "Yes," I said. "Now behave." They let Bram lead me away, though I felt their eyes on my back until the corridor curved out of sight. We descended into the heart of the castle, where the air was cooler and the stone darker. Eventually we reached a set of massive double doors carved with scenes of battle, vampires with glowing eyes, humans with torches, strange winged beasts overhead. "The throne hall," Bram said quietly. "Do not speak unless spoken to. When you do address him, Your Majesty will suffice." "Got it," I said, wiping my hands nervously on my apron. The doors opened. The hall was cavernous, lit by flickering silver chandeliers and tall stained glass windows that filtered moonlight into shards of color. At the far end, on a dais, stood a black throne carved from some glossy stone that drank the light. He sat on it like it had been made for him. The man from the portraits. The Vampire King. Up close, he was more height, more presence, more everything. Broad shoulders in a tailored black coat, dark hair falling to his jaw, sharp features arranged in a practiced mask of indifference. His skin was pale, almost luminescent in the cold light. But it was his eyes that stopped me, molten gold, intense and unreadable. Those eyes fixed on me as I walked down the long carpet. I tried not to trip. Or faint. Or throw up. So far, success on all three. I stopped a respectful distance away and bowed awkwardly. "Your Majesty," I managed. "Miss Pharaoh," he said. His voice was low, smooth, with a faint accent I couldn't place. It vibrated in my bones. "You are still here." "I noticed that too," I said before my brain could tackle my mouth to the ground. Silence. Bram made a noise that sounded suspiciously like a muffled choke. The king's eyes narrowed a fraction. "Explain." I swallowed. "I mean, yes, I'm still here, Your Majesty. Most jobs I've had don't come with flying books and haunted wardrobes, but the pay is good and your children haven't killed me yet, so I figured I'd see how the week goes." Bram was definitely dying behind me. The king rose from the throne with unhurried grace. He moved like a predator conserving energy, each step precise, silent. When he reached the edge of the dais, he descended the steps until he stood only a few paces away. Being near him was overwhelming. The air seemed cooler, sharper. My pulse thundered in my ears. "What is your given name?" he asked. "Alara," I said, voice a little thin. "Alara Pharaoh." "Alara," he repeated, testing the shape of it. Something in my chest fluttered treacherously. "Lucian and Lira, like you." It sounded almost like an accusation. "That's good, right?" I asked carefully. "It is unusual," he said. "You are the 15th caretaker in 3 months." The others fled in terror. Some could not bear to stay a full day. I winced. I heard rumors. About, the twins. Before I came. His jaw clenched. What rumors? That they're difficult, I said, choosing my words with care. That their power is unstable. That the castle itself bends around them. That no one can manage them. All true, he said without inflection. I hesitated. They're also children. Golden eyes snapped to mine, harsh and bright. They are not human children. I can tell, I said before tact could artfully tackle me. Human kids can't hover upside down on the ceiling or turn my broom into a sentient escape artist, but they can still throw tantrums and act out when they're hurt or lonely. The details are different. The core's the same. For a moment, I thought he would snap at me. Or laugh at me. Or something at me. Instead, he just watched me. Long enough that I shifted my weight, suddenly self-conscious in my plain dress and apron. You speak boldly, he said at last. Most humans tread carefully around me. I'm pretty sure if you wanted me dead, Your Majesty, I wouldn't be standing here, I said honestly. Tiptoeing feels pointless. A faint curve touched the corner of his mouth, too fleeting to be a real smile. You think yourself safe, then?
Oh no.
I said immediately. I'm terrified. I'm just pragmatic about it. Bram made another half-strangled noise. The king ignored him. The twins are dangerous, he said, the faint almost smile gone. They were born of a cursed union. Their powers awakened unnaturally early and in great strength. Their emotions twist reality around them. Those who cannot withstand it break. Or die. I thought of the books hitting the walls. Of the way shadows giggled. Of Lyra's sharp little voice describing the nanny seeing her worst fear. Have you tried training them? I asked softly. Teaching them how to handle it? His jaw tightened. I have brought in sorcerers, blood mages, ancient tutors. They all failed. The children resist. The power resists. And my enemies whisper. About what? I asked, though I suspected I already knew. The cursed heirs, he said bitterly. The unstable prince and princess. Weakness in the royal bloodline. There are those who would like to see them removed. For the good of the realm, they say. Cold fury flared in my chest. There's 7, I said, before remembering who I was talking to. Or 8. Or whatever the vampire age equivalent is. They're kids. You don't get to erase them because they scare people. He stared at me, something old and raw flickering behind the gold. You presume much, he murmured. Probably, I said, heart pounding. But they're not monsters, Your Majesty. They're powerful, and they're untrained, and they're absolutely menaces, but they're also. My throat tightened. I remembered Lucian's small hand reaching for Lyra's. The way Lira looked at the sun like it was something she'd lost. They're also just lonely, I finished. Silence stretched. Bram, the king said at last, without breaking eye contact. How have the twins behaved these last days? Calmer, sire, Bram said, his tone careful. There have been fewer incidents. The south wing has remained untouched. No servants have resigned. What of the nursery's saturation levels? Bram hesitated. The miasma of uncontrolled magic has lessened by approximately 30%, Your Majesty. The king's gaze sharpened on me. I resisted the urge to tug at my hair. So, I said weakly, that's good? It is unprecedented, he said. You have done nothing special? I mean, I told them if they float the chairs again I'd make them clean every window in the castle, I said. Does that count? He exhaled through his nose. It might have been a laugh if it hadn't sounded quite so tired. You will continue your duties, he said. You will stay close to them. I will have the court mage examine you for anomalies. Anomalies? I echoed. It is possible your presence stabilizes them, he said. If so, we must understand why. I nodded slowly. Okay. Just, advance notice if anyone plans to poke me with anything sharp. Something like amusement flickered in his eyes. You have my word. Thank you, Your Majesty, I said, meaning it. As I turned to leave, his voice stopped me. Alara. I froze. Turned back. His gaze had softened, just a fraction. If they frighten you, he said quietly, tell me. Immediately. You are under my protection while you serve in this castle. Warmth bloomed in my chest, surprised and bright. I'm not scared of them, I said, before I could swallow the words. He studied me, like he was trying to decide if I was foolish or dangerous. Then you are either very brave, he murmured, or very foolish. I like to think I'm a balanced blend of both, I said, because my mouth was a traitor. This time, I was sure of it, he almost smiled. Life in the castle settled into a strange, chaotic routine. Mornings, coax the twins out of bed, wrangle them into something resembling clothing, and negotiate the terms of their cooperation for the day. Afternoons, help them with lessons, Lucian liked numbers, Lira liked stories, sneak in chores, keep an eye out for spontaneous shadow eruptions. Evenings, supervise bath time, they tried to turn the water into blood once, read aloud until they drifted off, then stagger back to my little room and collapse like a puppet with cut strings. The magic mischief didn't vanish, but it changed. Instead of doors trapping servants in looping corridors for hours, the twins used their powers to build elaborate pillow forts or make paper birds that actually flew. Instead of terrorizing visiting merchants, they sent illusions of flowers drifting across the ceilings. They still tested me. Oh, did they test me? Lucian, you cannot replace all the soap in the castle with enchanted slime. I don't care how funny it is, Bram nearly broke his hip. Lira, we do not make people relive their worst nightmares because they said no dessert tonight. That is not an appropriate conflict resolution strategy. But they listened. They grumbled, but they listened. And slowly, I saw shifts in them. Lucian, who guarded his feelings like they were state secrets, started asking questions instead of just snapping when he was frustrated. Lira, who used drama as her weapon of choice, occasionally chose actual words over illusions. You're different, Lira said one afternoon as we sprawled on the nursery floor, coloring. Yes, actual coloring. With crayons. Lucian was pretending not to enjoy it, which meant he was very obviously enjoying it. How so? I asked. She chewed the end of her crayon. You don't flinch when we use magic. Sure I do, I said. On the inside. Very loudly. You don't try to make us smaller, Lucian said quietly. I looked at him. Smaller? Less, he clarified. Everyone else wants us to be less. Less loud. Less strange. Less us. You just tell us to put it somewhere that won't collapse the ceiling. Well, I said, I happen to like the ceiling. It's very pretty. I'd be sad if you broke it. Lira snorted. Lucian's mouth twitched. We like you, Lira said. You're ours now. My heart did a weird flip. Yours? She nodded firmly. Yes. Our human. Our maid. Like a pet, Lucian added thoughtfully. That's not how employment works, I objected. But I was smiling. Still, Lira said. You're ours. Later that evening, I ran into the king in one of the long galleries. I'd been trying to sneak past, he'd been drowning in council meetings and war reports all week, the lines of strain were back around his mouth. Alara, he said, stepping away from a tall window. Your Majesty, I replied, bobbing an awkward half-curtsy. Didn't mean to disturb. You did not, he said. His gaze swept over me, lingering on the faint smear of crayon on my sleeve. You've been with the twins all day. Yes, I said. We had an incident with a self-folding blanket. But we made progress on personal boundaries. One eyebrow arched. Personal boundaries. They tried to possess the blanket to make it hug me, I explained. We had a chat about asking before magically binding inanimate objects to people without their consent. The eyebrows stayed up. I see. He walked beside me down the gallery. I tried to be casual about suddenly walking next to someone who radiated kingly intensity and subtle menace. Bram informs me the nursery's atmosphere continues to improve, he said after a moment. The kids are doing the hard work, I said. I'm just here to keep them from turning the cook into a frog. Frogs are not native to these mountains, he said absently. Cool, so maybe don't tell them that, I murmured. His mouth quirked. A real half-smile this time. It transformed his face, softened the hard angles, made him suddenly, terribly handsome. I looked away quickly. The court mage examined you, he said. He found nothing. No trace of magic. No inherent resistance. No unusual aura. You are ordinary. Ouch, I said. Tell me how you really feel, Your Majesty. I meant, he said, one corner of his mouth still faintly curved, that your influence on the twins cannot be explained by known arcana. So? I'm magically inexplicable, I said. I'll put that on my resume. His gaze lingered on me, searching. Why do you stay? He asked quietly. Truly. I thought about it. About the way Lucian's face lit up when he figured out a tricky math riddle. About Lira's peals of laughter when I attempted to walk on walls and failed miserably. About the way the castle itself felt less oppressive now, less like a prison, more like a place holding its breath. They need someone who doesn't treat them like a problem to be solved, I said at last. Someone who doesn't flinch every time they blink. And, selfishly, I like them. They're exhausting, but they're mine. A little. His steps slowed. Yours. In the sense of, I worry about them and I will fight anyone who tries to hurt them, yes, I said, heat rising to my cheeks. Something flickered in his eyes. Something dangerous and soft. I should warn you, he said, voice low, vampires are territorial by nature. I blinked. Meaning? Those under my protection, he said, gaze steady on mine, are also, in a sense, mine. The corridor suddenly felt very small. Right, I said, my brain rebooting. So we share them. Gold burned hotter in his eyes. Yes, he said softly. We share them. I would have continued making a fool of myself, but that was the moment the castle shuddered. It was subtle at first, a faint vibration underfoot. Then the torches flared blue, shadows lurching on the walls. A chorus of distant doors slammed. The king's head snapped up. What was that? You tell me, I said, gripping the wall. Please don't say, structural failure. A wave of wrongness washed through the air. It felt like standing too close to a storm, hair rising, skin prickling. Instinct screamed at me, twins. They're upset, I said, heart pounding. Something's wrong. Yes, he said curtly. Stay here. I grabbed his sleeve without thinking. Like hell I will. They'll need me. For a moment, he looked at my hand on his arm like he couldn't quite believe my audacity. Then, very softly, he said, very well. Stay behind me. We moved. He didn't run, kings probably didn't run, but his stride lengthened until I had to jog to keep up. The closer we got to the nursery wing, the stronger the weirdness got. Corridors stretched too long, floors tilted, doors flickered in and out of existence. Lucian. Lira. I shouted, fighting against a sudden gust of wind that had no business existing indoors. We reached the doorway of their room. Or what should have been their room. The door was gone. In its place yawned a corridor of black, pulsing like a throat. Shadows crawled along the walls, whispering. The king swore under his breath in a language I didn't know. They're generating a pocket, he said grimly. A twisted space anchored to their magic. If it unravels. Then we go in, I said. He grabbed my wrist. Absolutely not. It is too unstable. I will. A voice echoed down the dark corridor. High, thin, and terrified. Lira. Lira. I didn't think. I just yanked my arm free and plunged into the dark. For a heartbeat, I felt nothing. No floor, no air, no sense of direction. Then I slammed into something solid and stumbled forward, gasping. The nursery was broken. Or rather, a warped reflection of it. Furniture floated at odd angles. The ceiling stretched into a spiral of stars. The air smelled like ozone and fear. Lucian and Lira huddled in the center of the room, clutching each other. Their eyes blazed gold, tears streaking their cheeks. Around them, jagged shapes of shadow whirled in a tightening circle. Lira. Lira sobbed when she saw me. We didn't mean to. It got away, Lucian choked. We were playing and it got away and now it won't listen. I waded through the distortion, every step like pushing through water. The shadows hissed at me, sharp and cold. Hey, I said, voice shaking but firm. Look at me. Both of you. They did, eyes wide and terrified. You're okay, I said. You're scared, and that's making the magic go wild. You need to breathe. We don't need to breathe, Lucian said hoarsely. Then pretend, I snapped. In. Out. Like this. I exaggerated the motion, chest rising and falling. They tried to copy me, shuddering. The shadows screamed in wordless rage. They don't like you, Lira whispered. Too bad, I said, forcing a smile. I didn't come here to win a popularity contest. Something shifted behind me. I didn't have to turn to know who it was. The air changed, heavier, steadier. The king's presence rolled through the pocket like a counterweight. Lira, he said sharply. Get behind me. No, I said, not taking my eyes off the twins. If they're anchored to me, I'm staying right here. Lira. Trust me, I said, voice cracking. Just this once. Please. I felt him still. The shadows lunged. They hit something unseen and recoiled, shrieking. Because he'd raised a hand, a barrier of pale light shimmering into existence. His magic pressed against the twins, steady and immense. Children, he said, voice ringing through the twisted space. Enough. They flinched. We're sorry, Lira sobbed. We didn't mean. I know, he said, and there was so much tired love in those two words that my throat closed. Listen to Lira. She is your anchor. Take hold. How? Lucian whispered. Like this is a nightmare, I said. And you're grabbing onto the only real thing. Me. My voice. My hands. I held out my arms. Come here, I said. Both of you. Right now. They moved. The closer they came, the more the space bucked and twisted, trying to stop them. The king's barrier held, his jaw clenched with effort. I stumbled forward to meet them halfway. When their cold little hands hit mine, it was like someone snapped a cable taut. For a heartbeat, everything went bright. Then the world slammed back into place. I was on my knees on the nursery floor, breath coming in ragged gasps. The room was normal. Or as normal as any room in a vampire castle got. The furniture was on the ground. The ceiling stayed where ceilings belonged. The twins knelt in front of me, clutching my hands so tightly their fingers dug into my skin. We're sorry, Lira whispered over and over. We're sorry, we're sorry, we're sorry. It got away, Lucian said again, voice shaking. We tried to call it back. It wouldn't listen. It turned into everything we're afraid of and. Hey, I croaked. Hey, hey. Look at me. They did. You did good, I said. You called for help. You held on. You came back. They both burst into fresh tears. I pulled them into a hug, one under each arm, and let them sob into my shoulder. After a long moment, I felt another presence beside us. The king knelt slowly, his long coat pooling around him. For the first time since I'd arrived, his mask had cracked. Worry carved deep lines in his face. "Lucian," he said softly. "Lira." They flinched, then looked up at him like they expected a blow. My heart broke a little more. "You frightened us," he said, voice rough. "You frightened yourselves. This power is not a toy." "We know," Lucian said, eyes red gold. "We're sorry." "I am not angry," the king said, and that seemed to shock them more than shouting would have. "I am relieved you are safe. And proud you called for help." Lyra's breath hitched. "You are?" "Yes," he said. "But we will speak more of this later. For now, rest." He touched their foreheads, murmuring something in that strange language. Their eyes fluttered, then closed. Within moments, they sagged against me, dead weight. "Are they?" My voice broke. "Asleep," he said. "I bound their power for the moment. They will recover." I exhaled shakily. "Good." Slowly, gently, he lifted them both into his arms, one on each side, as if they weighed nothing at all. For a heartbeat, he looked softer. Just a worried father with his kids. Somewhere in the back of my mind, something dangerous and warm stirred. He laid them on their beds, retucked their blankets with surprising care, and then turned back to me. I suddenly remembered I'd defied him, grabbed him, and jumped into a collapsing nightmare dimension. "Well," I said weakly, sitting back on my heels. "That was not on my schedule for today." He stared at me. "Do you have any idea," he said softly, "how utterly reckless that was?" "Yes," I said. "Do you have any idea how absolutely not staying outside the door while they screamed was going to happen?" For a moment, I thought he might yell. Or order me out of the castle. Or lock me in a tower. Instead, he closed his eyes. When he opened them again, the fury was still there, but it was tangled with something else. "You anchored them," he said. "Their magic twisted around you instead of unraveling the fabric of the castle. You are not a mage. You are not trained. And yet you walked into a nightmare and pulled them out." My throat tightened. "They were scared." "You were scared," he corrected quietly. "Yes," I admitted. "Terrified. And yet you went anyway." I shrugged, because if I didn't make light of it I was going to cry. "They're my kids," I said. "A little." His breath hitched. Slowly, as if compelled, he reached out and brushed his fingers over a scrape on my cheek I hadn't realized I had. His touch was cool, gentle. "You could have died," he said, voice hoarse. "So could they," I said. "I'm glad none of us did. We were too close." I could see tiny flecks of darker gold in his irises. I could feel the faint hum of power under his skin. "Your Majesty," I whispered, because my brain had completely forgotten how to form more complex sentences. "Alara," he murmured. For one wild second, it felt like the world had narrowed to the space between us. To the question hanging there, fragile and bright. Then Bram's voice drifted faintly down the hall, calling for him. The king jerked back, mask slamming down. "We will discuss this later," he said, already turning toward the door. "Discuss what?" I muttered, but he was gone. I sat there between the twins' beds, cheeks burning, heart pounding, absolutely certain of one thing. This job had just gotten a lot more complicated. Part 5 of Belonging, unfortunately, includes feelings. The pocket incident changed things. Not overnight. The castle didn't suddenly turn into a cheerful boarding school filled with sunshine and kittens. But the mood shifted. The twins clung more, at first, wary, watchful, always keeping me in sight as if I might vanish if they blinked. I didn't mind. I let them sit in the laundry room with me, folding tiny socks with suspiciously sharp fangs embroidered on them. I read long stories until my throat went hoarse. I sat on the floor between their beds until they fell asleep. They also listened more seriously when we talked about their magic. No more pushing the power until it slips, I said firmly. If it starts to feel like it's running away, you stop. You breathe. You call me. Or your father. Or Bram. Or literally anyone not made of sentient nightmares. What if they're busy? Lira asked. Then you keep breathing until they're not, I said. We'll make a list of emergency things you can focus on to ground yourselves. So we did. We practiced. Little exercises. Games where they'd build illusions and then dissolve them slowly, carefully. You're making them soldiers, Bram said quietly one evening, watching from the doorway. I'm making them kids who don't accidentally implode the castle, I replied. And giving them tools, a deeper voice added. The king stepped into the room, cloak trailing. The twins stiffened, then relaxed as he gave them a rare, small smile. Father, Lucian said with dignified calm that lasted exactly half a second before Lira barreled into his side. He caught her easily, steadying her. I hear you have been working hard, he said. I am pleased. They glowed under the simple praise. Later, after the twins were in bed, the king walked me back to my room. It had become a habit, apparently. I wasn't complaining. You are doing more than any mage could, he said as we walked through a quiet corridor. They respond to you in ways I did not think possible. I shrugged, embarrassed. I just talk to them like they're people. Most see their power first, he said. You see them. They're loud, I said. Hard to miss. His lips twitched. We reached the door to my small room. I hesitated with my hand on the knob. May I ask you something? I said. You have thus far, he replied dryly. I see no reason you would stop now. Those nobles you mentioned, I said. The ones who whisper about the twins being a curse. Are they still an issue? His expression darkened. They are contained. For now. Contained, in Vampire King language, probably meant terrified into silence but still annoying. Do they know about me? I asked. About the whole weirdly stabilizing the cursed heirs thing? He hesitated. Some. Rumors spread, even in stone walls. I chewed my lip. Are they going to try to use me? Or take me? Or hurt me to get to them? The words came out more scared than I intended. His eyes flashed. They will not. That's a strong statement for something you can't fully control, Your Majesty, I said softly. He stepped closer. Close enough that the faint scent of him hit me, something like cold stone and old wine and something darker. You are under my protection, he said. Any who seek to harm you will answer to me. My heart did a stupid, swoopy thing. Is that a royal decree? Yes, he said simply. It is. Cool, I said, because I was a disaster. Good to know. We stood there in awkward silence for a moment, both very aware of how close we were. Alara, he said eventually, voice softer. About that moment in the nursery. After the pocket collapsed. My face heated. We were all emotional and half dead on our feet, I said quickly. I'm sure we imagined it. I did not imagine it, he murmured. I swallowed. Oh. He looked suddenly, disarmingly human. Tired. Vulnerable. I have not allowed myself distractions, he said. Not for a very long time. My duty is to my people, my realm, my children. That's fair, I said, throat tight. They need you. And yet, he said, I find my thoughts returning to you. To your laugh echoing down these halls. To the way the twins cling to your skirts. To the way you stood in front of a storm rather than let it take them. My heart was doing complicated gymnastics now. I am not a good man, Alara, he continued quietly. I have done many, terrible things. I will do more, if I must, to keep this realm and my children safe. I cannot offer you softness. Not entirely. I didn't ask for soft, I said, voice shaking. I asked for honest. And a paycheck. He huffed a laugh. I am also, he said slowly, their father. If I want you, it complicates matters. There it was. Laid bare between us like a blade. Because I'm their maid? I asked. In part, he said. And because you are human. Mortal. Fragile. His gaze lingered on my throat. You will age. They will not. You will die. They. I know how mortality works, I said, both wry and aching. I could turn you, he said, so quietly I almost didn't hear it. Make you like us. But that choice is profound. Final. It cannot be made lightly. And if I offered it for selfish reasons? Hey, I said, stepping closer on instinct. Breath. In. Out. Remember? He stared at me, stunned. We don't have to decide everything tonight, I said. We don't even have to decide anything for a while. I care about the twins. I care about this place. And I swallowed. The words were there, stubborn and terrifying. I care about you, I said. Which is annoying, because you're bossy and broody and taller than anyone has a right to be, but here we are. Something warm and fierce flared in his eyes. You care, he repeated. Don't make me say it again, I muttered. He stepped close enough that my back brushed the door. His hand rose, hovering near my cheek, not quite touching. May I, he asked. The fact that the most powerful vampire I'd ever heard of was asking consent before touching me flipped some internal breaker. Yes, I whispered. His fingers brushed my skin, cool and careful. He traced the line of my jaw like I was something precious. My breath hitched. If we proceed, he murmured, close enough that I could feel his words against my lips, it will not be simple. There will be opposition. Danger. You will be a target. I already am, I said. I'm the one they cling to when their world breaks. That makes me a target whether we kiss or not. His eyes flared. Who said anything about kissing? Oh, I said faintly. My mistake. He laughed, low and rough, and then, finally, he bent his head and kissed me. It was careful at first. Gentle, testing. Cool lips brushing mine, the faint taste of wine and something old and wild. My hands came up to grip the front of his coat, because my knees had apparently decided they were done. The world narrowed again, but this time there was no panic, just warmth, and the steady press of him against me, and the sensation of falling and being caught at the same time. When he pulled back far too soon, I chased him a little, dazed. He rested his forehead against mine, breathing a little harder than before. Complicated, I whispered. Fatally, he agreed, voice a rumble. A small voice drifted down the hallway. Lucian, I told you they were kissing. I froze. The king turned his head very slowly. The twins stood at the far end of the corridor, both in their nightclothes, both clearly having snuck out of bed. Lira looked delighted. Lucian looked smug. Called it, Lucian said. I said 2 weeks, Lira told him. You said 3. I win. You do not gamble over my personal life, the king said, sounding strangled. Too late, Lira chirped. I covered my face with my hands. I'm never going to live this down, am I? Not ever, Lucian said, clearly thrilled. The king exhaled, then did something I'd never seen him do, he laughed. Properly. It echoed down the corridor, warm and startled and real. Come here, he said, holding out a hand. The twins ran down the hall and smashed into us in a tangle of limbs and laughter. Somehow, we all ended up in a group hug, my back pinned to the door, the king's arm around my shoulders, Lira climbing him like a tree, Lucian limpet to my side. My maid, Lira said smugly. Our maid, Lucian corrected. Our human, Lira added. Our Alara, Lucian finished. I swallowed hard, blinking back sudden tears. Your Alara, huh? I said, voice wobbly. What about your father? Our father can share, Lira said graciously. I am honored, the king said dryly, though his arm tightened around me. We stood there, ridiculous and tangled, for a long moment. I realized, very suddenly, that I wasn't thinking about my old town, or my old life, or how utterly insane this all technically was. I was thinking about lesson plans for handling magic flare-ups. About new curtains for the nursery. About whether Bram would actually combust if we added a dog to this chaos. I was thinking about a future. Here. With your permission, Your Majesty, I said, I'd like to stay. As long as you'll have me. He looked down at me, golden eyes soft. You are already ours, he said simply. If you wish to stay, Alara, we will have to figure out how to make this forever. My heart stuttered. Forever's a big word, I said. We have time to grow into it, he replied. The twins both gasped. You're going to turn her? Lira squealed. Not tonight, he said firmly. And not without a great deal of discussion. I want fangs, I muttered. Seems only fair. He smiled, slow and dangerous and full of promise. One step at a time. Fine, I said. Step 1, get your kids back to bed before Bram finds all of us and dies on the spot. An excellent plan, he agreed. He scooped up Lira. I took Lucian's hand. Together, we walked back toward the nursery. The castle felt different around us, lighter, somehow. Less like it was biting down on its own fear. Later that night, after the twins were asleep again and I'd finally collapsed into my own bed, staring at the ceiling, I realized something. I'd come here for a job. Somewhere along the way, I'd found something else. A maddening, powerful man who kissed like a promise and worried like a father. Two cursed, brilliant children who haunted halls and hearts in equal measure. A strange, half-broken castle that echoed with old ghosts and new laughter. Not just a job. A family. Which, unfortunately for my sanity, meant I was absolutely never getting out of this now. And honestly, I was okay with that.